Hello everyone, welcome to the Sweet Source Canada YouTube channel. My name is Tristan, and today we're going to be doing a common repair that a lot of Trionic 5 and 7 owners are probably familiar with and have probably done themselves. And it's the direct ignition cassette, or the DIC. And this is going to be showcasing it on a 2000 SAAB 93 Viggen. So we're going to dive into it right after the intro. So this beautiful thing that's before you is the SAAB direct ignition cassette. Now, of course, you have a black one for Trionic 7 cars, and you have the red one for Trionic 5 cars. And of course, earlier models in the early 90s up till 93, I believe, they were just SAAB direct ignition. It wasn't really part of the Trionic system. That came out a bit later on. But of course, these cassettes here do work really well. When they do work, they make these engines quite strong. They're part of the reason why these engines are so powerful for how big they are, but they're also part of the reason why these engines run so smoothly and get great gas mileage while being quite powerful and torquey. But of course they do have issues. Of course there's the paint on these, the finish does come off. It is factory powder coated, but over time with heat and just being exposed to the elements, these do get a beating. It's also just the fact that it's bolted right into the valve cover, and that's right where a lot of the heat is going to be in this engine. And generally these SAAB engines do like to run a bit on the hotter side, just the way they run. So they do have problems here and there, like cracks in the actual plastic housing above the coils, and other problems like that. And generally you'll get some poor running conditions, poor fuel economy, and mainly you'll get a check engine light. So in this case, this one's actually working really well in our Viggen, but we are going to be testing out a used unit we do have just to make sure that it works, so we know it's a good spare, or if someone needs one, we could sell it on to a customer and find a new SAAB home. So let's go ahead and start this repair. It's a very simple DIY that only takes a few minutes. First thing you'll notice is you have 4 T30 torque screws on the top, and you want to loosen these first. Now, I always personally put anti-seize on these screws. That's probably why they came out pretty easily for me. I have seen some cars where these just snap when you go remove them. I never had it happen to me, but I've purchased some, including this Viggen here, that had one snapped. I think it was this one here. So I went ahead and changed all 4 of them and applied some anti-seize compound to the threads. And you could probably see there's still a little bit on the actual bullet itself. But you want to go ahead and just remove these 4, and I would totally reapply anti-seize. In this case, I don't have it on hand, so I'm not going to. Of course, if I were doing more of a permanent install, in this case, like I'm removing these again in a few days, so I can reapply some then, I would generally always advise whenever these come out to apply some anti-seize. These still have some, as you could see. It's kind of hard to tell, but they still have some, so it's good. I had this out not too long ago on this car. So once that's done, just a note, make sure the engine's pretty cool to the touch. Even these screws get piping hot, so make sure that everything's cool to the touch, and then you can go ahead and remove these without burning yourself. So once that's done, I'm going to put my tools here, and you want to remove this connector that's over here. Now, the connector is located right here, and this is easily done, with a screwdriver putting right over here, or you can go ahead and press these out if you don't have a screwdriver, and that'll give you enough leverage to go ahead with your fingers and pull the rest of the clip out. Now, to make your life a little bit easier, you could also wiggle the clip out and pull while pulling up on this top part here. And that just makes it come out even easier. So once that's all done and the connector's out, you can go ahead and lift this out. SAAB was nice enough to kind of leave some handles here to hold it. You can put your hands under here. Just go ahead and wiggle it out. And if one of these has been in here for a long time, it will be pretty stuck, but they should come out pretty easily. So once that's out, go ahead and put it to the side. Now, once you have your DIC out, you can go ahead and look where your spark plugs are. And over here you could see, well, yes, of course, you could check if your spark plugs are old or need to be replaced by seeing if there's rust maybe on the nuts. Mine have been done, I believe last year I did these. You can also check if you have a valve cover gasket leaking. At least the inner gasket sits right here. And with that, you would see oil stains over here, and you would also even sometimes see oil pool up right around here. There is a kind of drain hole kind of thing where oil can also leak out of, where you can tell there's an oil leak. You can see it on the side here. But this one here is nice and dry because I actually did this valve cover gasket, I believe last year, with these spark plugs as well, and the cylinder head bolts were done in this car as well, which would have made for a cool video, but this was before I had the channel up and running. So in this point, it's very simple reinstall. I will show you guys that, but these are good things to check while you're in here. If you see oil seeping, you'll know very well you got to change your valve cover gasket. If you see like rusted out spark plugs where the hex is, and you see all that's rusted and corroded, those were probably in there for a very long time, and you'll want to change those out too. So let's go ahead and reinstall the used unit to test it out. Alright, so just a few things before we install this. Common things you'll see, of course, is the paint. If you see the paint is old, doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but it just tells you that the unit itself is old. You want to make sure you're installing a genuine SAAB one. So these nowadays are made by Hitachi, I believe. But you do want to make sure you're using a genuine SAAB unit. That is the most up-to-date, which is 3.7. And you want to make sure, which I'm actually going to show you right here, sorry, TK 3.7. And you want to make sure you use a little bit of silicone grease or dielectric grease on where the coils actually hook up to the spark plugs. That's going to help keep everything insulated and will not allow any spark to escape, or voltage rather. Also, when you do install this, make sure that before you start your car, it's been either stored upwards like this. So because there's some thick oil in here that helps keep these cool, you want to make sure all of that's there. If you store it upside down, all that oil is going to leak down and it's not going to protect these coils. It could prematurely wear them. So you want to make sure that is done correctly. So let's go ahead and install this. I want to make sure you line up where the spark plugs are. Go ahead and lower it down like so. Should be able to sit perfectly flush like that. Once that's done, go ahead and reconnect the connector, which is very simply done. Just put the connector in and then press that red tab in we saw before. You just press it in and it'll slide on itself. Then let's go get our 4 T30s and thread those in. I like to always start threading these by hand. Make sure you don't cross thread because these threads are part of the valve cover, so it would really suck to cross thread these. Once that's done, make sure it's held all the way down and start tightening these screws up. So these bolts don't need to be super tight, but they do need to be tight enough where this is making proper contact with the spark plugs. Because if one of these bolts are missing, or two, even worse, even 2 or 3 of these bolts are missing, this is not going to be fully seated, and you can actually get codes for that, and you can even get rough running because of that. So make sure all 4 bolts are correctly tightened without using any thread locker on these. You don't want them to get stuck because with all that heat from the engine, these bolts kind of get in there. So you want to make sure you use a little bit of anti-seize. Of course I didn't this time because I don't have any on hand, but you want to make sure you use a little bit of anti-seize and just tighten these bolts snug, nothing too crazy. I'm using a 1/4 inch and these are tight enough as is. So once that's all done, this is a plug and play unit, so go ahead and start up your car, go take it for a drive and enjoy your smooth running B234 or B235 engine. Or fact of the matter, B204 or B205 engine as well, because you'll be happy with the restored smoothness and power you'll have. So once again, guys, if you do want to replace one of these, just make sure you follow a few important steps, but it is a super duper easy install that pretty much anyone can do. All right, everyone, well, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe. And if you guys have any questions or comments you'd like to make, put them down below in the comment section, and I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns or comments. Anyways, guys, this was a super easy install. Pretty much any SAAB owner can do this with a few common hand tools. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and take care. Goodbye.